Hello! Today we're going to talk about highs and lows of homeschool. This is a collaboration with Suin and several other ladies. So I will make sure to link the collaboration down below and at the end of this video. Make sure you check out their videos. And hello if you're brand new here. My name is Misty. We'll get into some of the things all around my homeschooling here in a second. But if you're brand new, I'd love for you to leave a comment down below introducing yourself so that I can say hello to you. I'm not into long intros, so let's just jump right in. So we're going to start with the highs of homeschool before we go into the lows. But first I need to preface kind of what goes on in our homeschooling just so you know where I'm coming from. I'm a mother to two children. They are 5 and 8, and we homeschool while I also work from home on my own business. Okay, so those are some of the dynamics you should probably be aware of. My husband works a regular full-time job. I work something that I do on my own time flexibly, which is great. So those are some specs that you need to know. So 5 and 8, work from home, parent. Here we go. First, what is the most rewarding moment you've had as a homeschooler? I don't know if there's like an exact moment, but I'm someone, even when I worked with other people's children in an educational setting, my thing was always seeing that next bump, next level up of learning. It's so rewarding to just see those new things connect in their mind, to see new little parts of their personality develop with their brain development. That's always something I've had a fascination with. So something I find very rewarding is just those small moments where you see the fruits of your labor, and you just see them naturally growing and progressing with or without your help. But that is definitely something I find very rewarding. Also, it is raining a lot right now, so if you hear sound, that's what that is. Next, how has homeschooling strengthened your relationship with your children? I think it strengthens our relationship naturally because you get more time with that parent to child bonding time than you do in a more traditional setting where most people do go off to work and their children, or they stay home depending, but their children usually go off to a traditional school where for hours a day you don't have access to them and they're in the care of somebody else. So with homeschooling, the greatest thing is the deep bond that gets connected between you and child. It's just different. I used to be a working parent, so I know like both sides of the coin, and that extra bonding we get is really what comes to mind on this question. So I would definitely say that. It's hard to explain, but it's just different compared to when I was a working parent, like outside of the home working, to be clear, like a 9 to 5 normal setting. Can you share a moment when homeschooling made you feel incredibly proud? Oh, see, I'm not someone who holds on to like big profound moments. I like simple and efficient. Like that's naturally what I'm drawn to. And so once again, it's just those moments of progression where you see a need that needs to be met in your child. And so I have one child who's very shy. To help put her into extracurriculars that really bring her personality out and bring her beyond being shy, those are the kind of moments that come to mind for this question. So yeah, I'm not someone who's going to give like just really profound big moments, because we live ordinary mundane lives, and those big profound moments to me are those small moments where making the right choice for your child and advocating for your child and their education and their curriculum and what kind of programs we put them into, seeing it pay off in the way that you envision is really something to me. What's one subject or skill you were able to deep dive into because of homeschooling? It ebbs and flows and it's ever changing, but there are a few things that come to mind, and one of them is that we can deep dive into the subjects they're passionate about, right? Which is ever changing. Kids are always changing their mind about what they're passionate about, but the fact that we can deep dive into what they're interested in instead of it being like a normal setting where like you do math for this long and you do this for this long and everybody goes to music class, like, and it's evenly set out in like a traditional school, I'm able to let them just do just what they need to do to get by on subjects they don't care about, to be proficient, and then they can really take off on subjects that are important to them. And I think that is just an awesome thing to be able to deep dive into and to hone in on. And the other thing is, it's one of the reasons why we homeschool is when it comes to things like history, I'm not as concerned. There are natural concerns because I'm not a historian and I don't know everything, but I'm not as concerned as when they're in the school system type setting where it's not the best historically displayed curriculum. Like, we're able to deep dive and to look at other perspectives, right, in a way that isn't offered in regular schooling. So I think that that's a really cool aspect that it was one of the concerns when we started homeschooling, is we can make sure that we are getting them adequate historical education that isn't, to be honest, whitewashed or any of these other issues that come about. So that's a really nice aspect as well. How has homeschooling allowed you to cater to your child's learning needs? Oh, this is a big one. And it allows us to really take advantage of that one-on-one learning. In traditional settings, there's like a general census, a general point of the bell curve where they're progressing along. They're going to do what's best for what the general class, and then beyond that, children need IEPs or they may need additional tutoring, things like that. The wonderful thing about homeschooling is that I'm able to cater to their needs, where if they're struggling in something, we can pull back, we can go down several levels if we need, and it's not a big deal. That's something we're doing in one of our subjects that a child is struggling on, and we're able to really take our time and slow down and figure out where it is that they need the mind to connect the information. So that's really cool. And then on the other end as well, the things that they're excelling in and passionate about, we're able to really take off in those areas and let them really explore and do everything they want with that subject without a worry about needing a whole class to progress. Because once again, you know, it's the way it's set up. Children in a regular school have to progress at a generally, you know, a certain pace, when at home, that's not the case at all. I don't have a whole class of children. It's essentially a private school with one-on-one focus or 1 to 2 focus, since I only have 2 kids. So we're able to really cater everything to the children's needs. Has homeschooling allowed you to be more flexible with your family's schedule? Any examples? Oh, yes. Like I said, I'm working from home. Okay, my husband works from home too. He's literally a room over, probably in a meeting. The kids are another room over watching, they get to watch a movie, so that's what they're doing while I'm filming. And I am a working mom, so even like today, you know, we have a general flow, which I need to do a video on. We've been doing amazing. We have been doing so good at homeschooling and life in general. It's been going great with the way I have it set up. But today I said, look guys, I have a busy day. Mommy's schedule looks a little different, so homeschool looks a little different. So we're doing things out of order, and they're still going to get done, but they're just out of order because I had a long work meeting this morning, and then I have to film this video. We have plans tonight, right? We're heading into the holiday season, so we're going to like a tree lighting ceremony and those kind of things. So I'm able to cater our education around those dynamics. So on a normal day where I don't have a ton to do, we're still able to be flexible. Let's say that I didn't finish my work for the morning. Okay, so we're gonna have you girls do these independent studies while I go finish work, and then I'm gonna come in, we're gonna do our family subjects and our one-on-ones. Or maybe today we need to go a little lighter, just because everybody's in a bad mood and we need to figure that out. Or even the other day, my oldest was so close to finishing her reading curriculum, and she had a friend over while we're homeschooling. This friend is here, and she said, I want the friend to be able to go with us for our reward. They get rewarded when they finish a curriculum. She wanted to go to an ice cream shop, and she said, I want to do it today because my friend's here. And I said, well, you have 3 lessons to go. Are you ready to pump those out so that you can take her? And she said, yeah. So, you know, the flexibility is we spent an hour and a half doing reading lessons, and she finished it, and her friend got to go with us. So it really is amazing how flexible homeschooling is and how it allows for family dynamics and space, while also still being successful at educating children. The last highs question is, what is the best field trip or hands-on learning experience you've had? Man, we have so many. Lately we've been slower with the field trips just because of other things going on personally, and we haven't been able to do as many or focus as much as we used to on field trips, but we're getting back into the swing of those trips. And we've had so many cool trips. We've had trips where they have gotten to see history up close and personal as best as you can. Obviously, you can't go back in the past, but you know, taking trips to places like Washington, D.C. and exploring the museums and walking the National Mall, you know, that's not something you get to do every day unless you live in that area, I guess. But that was a really cool one, and just getting to really see really cool artifacts and things that have a lot to do with our history, you know, that was really cool. We do everyday mundane field trips here locally to our parks, our recs and parks, where they teach us about nature and it gets to be hands-on. Like one time the girls got to create their own habitat. We still have it, it's in a windowsill. It's basically like a wetland in a jar. So they have their own habitat where it's been on the shelf for like 2 years and there's still little species you can see reproducing and living in there. So yeah, there's really cool ways that you can do mind-blowing and hands-on homeschooling with trips and little things. We also are huge on exploring caverns and the history of caverns too. Like we live in a place where before colonization, indigenous people had such a rich history here, and when you go into the caves, you get to see some of the firsthand things. We have a cave here where they had, it was where during the winter they would live down in this cave, and you can still see like the smoke, the stains from the smoke on the top of the cavern. And then they had this table, there's a rock table that they had meetings around. Yeah, there's just some rich history when you go do those things. And so, oh, and another one is we live where there were the most underground railroad stations. So because we live in Ohio, right? So like above the river, there were 1 million stops, not 1 million, that's exaggerating, but there were a lot of stops to get as far north as possible. So we have a rich history there to learn about. So yeah, I can't name a specific one because we have so many amazing field trips that leave us with just rich stories and experiences, and we're huge on field trips. I need to do more videos on that too. But yeah, I can't pick one specific thing or even a few. We have amazing field trips all the time. Okay, moving on to the lows. The first question is, have you ever felt overwhelmed with being both the parent and the teacher, and how did you handle it? Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not just a stay-at-home parent and a homeschooling parent, which in itself is enough. I'm also throwing in the dynamic of working, okay? So I've got to work, I've got to be a regular parent and show up as a parent, I have to show up as a teacher, I still got to find time for the husband, right? Got to find time for family and friends and showering and exercise and sleep, like all the things, cooking, cleaning, like there's so much. So it is very normal for us to be overwhelmed, very, very normal. And sometimes the seasons are worse than others. This past summer was a rough one for us as far as being overloaded and overwhelmed as a family, which makes it hard to educate or to show up as a parent because your mind is foggy with everything going on, and it's hard to really be present and to, you know, not have all the worries at the forefront. But you know, life happens, it is what it is. I understand that when I signed up to be a stay-at-home homeschooling working parent, that not only is it a privilege to do so, but it's a sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifices to be had in order to have this life. And so you really just have to work with it. You know, a lot of it is mindset. You can't change a lot of things that happen, right? Things happen in life and a lot of it's out of our control, but what we do have control over is our mindset and how we go about it. So, you know, like, oh, there's so many dishes, there's always messes. You know, these kids are so messy. I'm so stressed out about this repair in the house, and I have to figure out time to make work. And I can allow that to easily become my mentality, or I can take the time to say, I'm blessed to have dishes. You know, I have people I'm feeding. I have people, you know, I have a family to feed. Man, these kids are messy, but wow, they are really exploring their environment and their world, you know. Those are the kind of things that I have to think about. So, man, I'm frustrated I have to work and homeschool, you know. You just have to flip it and be like, I get to do this. I get to provide for my children financially and educationally and as a parent. Like, you just have to turn around the mentality. And not only that, you need to figure out how to simplify. What is the most streamlined way that I can get all of this done? What shortcuts can I take that don't sacrifice our character or our integrity or our family values? Of course, don't do that. But if there are other shortcuts you can take them. If things in your life are not helping you and they're hurting you, remove them. Learn to say no. Like, you have to simplify. So that's what I would say is how we go about handling it. What's one thing you wish you had known before starting your homeschool journey? How much you will have to fight your own mentality, your own urges, your own beliefs, necessarily your beliefs, but beliefs that have been instilled into you that you have to work through. It's a lot of a mind game for the parent, where I think I have to deprogram myself from wanting to do the checklist and hitting all the checklist points. I have to, like, I can't let the fear of other people judging whether or not my kids are on the right path. I can't let that kind of stuff get to me. So that would be the biggest thing, I think, is understanding that there are mind games that you're going to have to almost do therapy on yourself for. Or maybe see a therapist, that's great too. But yeah, it's a minefield that you're gonna have to work through. And sometimes you're gonna hit pain points that hurt to work through. But you work through them, right? So that you can provide for your children the way they need, because you will have to often look over or past what you want in order to meet their needs with homeschooling. And it's never fun to lean into that. You have to lean into painful things. You have to lean into fears. You have to lean into all of that. So it's never fun, but it has to be done. Was there ever a subject or topic that you found difficult to teach? How did you overcome the challenge? Yeah, so for my oldest, math is the hard one. Math is the hard one. The little one, it's been reading, but it's just because mentally she's not there, but she has the desire to be there. She's been advocating for herself that she wants to be there. So we push through it, even though it's frustrating. But she's finally getting to a point where her brain is connecting things and it's making sense. So hers was like normal development type struggles. But for my oldest, she has a hate for math, a true hate for math. I've made several videos about math in our house. It's ever changing. I don't know. It is what it is. Your kid's not going to love everything. And in my mind, I was like, we got to do it. Like, you got to learn it. You got to do this. You got to do that. We need to. And I was stressing myself out a lot, and I was stressing her out. Now, part of it is she's just a stubborn personality, and she says, I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to do it. And then on my end, it's feeling like, oh, she's not where she needs to be. I'm not measuring up. I'm not, like, placing my value as the homeschooler, the educator, on where she's at on this subject. And I finally just came to realize, like, it is what it is. Sometimes you have to start from scratch. Sometimes you have to be okay that your child doesn't want to be a mathematician. And I finally came to that realization, and I said, you know what? She doesn't want to pursue a career that requires like algebra and trigonometry and all that stuff. So I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that be what it is. And we're going to start back from the beginning. We are going to go back to kindergarten level math, and we are going to just work through it at your pace. We're going to find a curriculum that you love, which we did. It's Math with Confidence, just so you know. And I'll link that below in case you want to check it out. I had to be okay with letting go of the way I thought it should be, and I had to let go of my insecurities about it, and to say, we will figure this out your way. So we finally are on a good path with math. It's still an ever-changing process, but right now we have found a good process. She is actually enjoying math. She's smiling during math. She's asking to do it. We're on a break from it right now just because I started a new process, and I'll get into that some other time. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it. So that's where we're at. We're still in the challenge, but we are overcoming the challenge moment by moment. We're still in it. We're still in the trenches, but we're moving. We're chugging along. Can you share a moment when you question your decision to homeschool? Ooh, I think the times when I question homeschooling is when things are just going south real hard. There are some days like that. There are days where I cry. Like, I haven't had one in a while just because I found a good groove, but there have been days where the kids don't get along, and they're putting me in a bad mood because of how stressed I am about, ending the arguments. And then I'm stressing them out because now I'm acting out. They triggered something in me, and then we're not getting anywhere because everybody's upset. So homeschooling is not thriving, and our family dynamics are not thriving. Those are the days where it gets really hard and I question my abilities. And we just have to remember that there are going to be days like that. There are going to be seasons like that. You might be in a season. Like, I've had friends where they've gone through some really tough things, and they felt like they were failing as the parent and as the wife and as the homeschooler. But that it's life. when you choose to homeschool, you're choosing to incorporate education into that family dynamic. It becomes part of the family. And so we just have to understand that the dynamics are not always healthy and not always thriving. It is what it is, that's life. And so you just have to keep chugging along. And sometimes it's a fake it till you make it thing. You know, sometimes it is. So there are going to be days or seasons where you feel like you're failing. And it's okay to reassess and to figure it out. And to be like, I'm doing the best I can right now. This is a really hard season. So we're all suffering from it, but we'll get through it. So you just got to keep chugging along. Have you faced any social stigmas or misunderstandings about homeschooling? Absolutely, but it's all the same old same. I've had someone tell me I'm a bad parent for choosing homeschooling when they knew nothing about us. I've had friends tell me my kids aren't properly socialized when they don't know the dynamics of our day. You know, they're working their corporate job. They're not at our homeschool knowing what's going on. I've had people concerned if they're, you know, meeting the metrics for the public system. And it's crazy how much of a stronghold the public school system or the general American standard school system will say, because it's not just public, there's privates doing the same and all the other options out there. But there's a standard that we think we have to live by, but the truth is we don't. Like, a lot of the standards we live by are arbitrary, and they're created by someone long ago who created something so, whether it was oppositionally intriguing or, you know, whatever it was, like, people along the way have created these standards for us that are not always the right path. You could both be trying to get to, we'll use DC for instance again. I could be trying to get to Washington, DC, and my friend from North Carolina could be trying to get to Washington, DC. We're not taking the same path. If I took the same road she took, you know, like, that's so much work. I'm gonna have to come all the way down here and then come up, when I could have just taken this path because that's what works for our family where we're at. So I think that that's a big frustration, is coming against that, where everybody thinks you need to do this exact thing. So if I want to follow what you're saying, then I'm going to have to go out of the way for our family dynamic in order to meet what you consider to be the best option. So yeah, it's very normal to come up against that stuff, but brush it off. It's not worth it. You gotta understand, like, I'm someone who's very strong and opinionated and mentally, like, you're not gonna get one over me. It's very hard to get one over me. So when people, I don't know if I'm the best to talk on this subject because a lot of people want to consider others' opinions a lot more than me, and I naturally have those insecurities too. Obviously I've talked about them, but I bounce back. It is in my nature to bounce back. So that's really all I can say, is you just gotta bounce back. Do what works for you. Don't worry about anybody else. My camera's dying. We gotta move it. How do you handle a lack of me time or self-care while juggling homeschool duties? I don't. Me time is important. It has been for years. My husband gets his me time. I get my me time. We have a system. I recommend you getting on a system to do so. Not everyone has the same privileges as me. Like, you know, not everybody has a husband. Some people are single. Camera died for a minute there. Or sometimes you have a husband who isn't supportive. You know, whatever it may be. Figure out how to create that space for you. I do it for me. There are certain days that I go out. It's like clockwork. My husband knows, all right, I'll see you in a few hours when you're done. And then on a daily basis, I get up for the kids. I do what I gotta do. If I need a moment, I tell the kids I need a moment. Like, I could probably do a whole video on that. But, and if you want that, let me know in the comments. But it's a priority. It's a priority. So I don't often let it become something that is hard to manage. All right, camera's dying, so let's get to this fast. If you want to check out the other ladies collab video, click over here on the bottom. And if you're new here and want to see more, click the video on top. And I'll see you over there in that video. Have fun homeschooling.